Okay, good evening and welcome to the April 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Financial Oversight Committee and Town Council. I'll call the meeting to order. At this time, our first order of business for the Financial Oversight Committee is to co-chairs. I know in the past Dawn had served as the chair of the committee, but serve at least as just the sole chair. So is there anyone on the committee that's interested?
Just a question, who is technically the Financial Oversight Committee this year, Connor?
Great, I should clarify that for that. I know I mentioned it at the council meeting, but I should mention it at this one too. So it's yourself, Jim Broderick, Don Starks, Rich Ficero, Kathy Hill, and Anna Jones.
Okay.
Don Starks, yeah.
And Dawn is also?
Yes.
She'll be here shortly. Maybe.
And I know normally the chair usually is not a town councilor or can it be?
It can be. I think, yeah, it can be. Whomever's interested.
Well, if I may be so bold, in the past, I've worked with Jim Broderick and he was a very effective chair. I don't know how Jim feels about hearing that. No, he was extremely.
It was very bold of you to elect someone else.
I know.
I'll second that.
Or if anyone wants to co-chair too, that's fine.
Does anybody feel like they want to do that? And didn't Dawn say that she wouldn't mind co-chairing it?
She said no.
No co-chair?
Oh, I don't know about co.
She didn't want to be the chair, but she was open to co-chairing, I think. I don't want to
So maybe
push her into it, but
she could work with Jim.
I suggest it would be a vice chair versus a co-chair, only because then it just makes it simpler in terms of.
Make her right.
sure. So if someone want to nominate Jim as the Dawn as the co-chair or vice chair, sorry.
Make a motion to nominate Mr. Jim Broderick as chair and Don Starks as vice chair.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We have our chair. Thank you, Jim, for being so gracious.
Open council.
So I think it'd probably be best to open the council as a separate, so the finance oversight and then open the council,
Sure.
just for clarification more than anything.
Yeah, rather than muddy them. So then now that we have the Financial Oversight Committee meeting, that I'll call the Town Council meeting to order as well, with the members present being Ralph, Marilyn, Jim, myself as president, and then of course the same members on the Financial Oversight Committee, Anna and Kathy. There's no official separate council business. It's just solely a council posted concurrently with the Financial Oversight Committee so that other councilors could attend and discuss and ask questions along the way.
So just logistics, the number one meetings. I did listen in on the town council meetings and just noting that, and I don't disagree, Connor, that you would like to be able to get the recommendations clear so that if there are some things you want to think about, or you have some time to do it before you have to vote on it. So that kind of backs the recommendations up a little bit. So I just, seems to me we have to agree on a meeting time, like day and time, and the meetings over the course right now. And it would look to me like we would need to be able to finish our business by, and provide town council with recommendations by May 7th or May 6th, if that was whatever the meeting is that.
Yeah.
And just kind of like figuring out when do we have to give you our recommendations, and then we can kind of like backtrack ourselves.
Yeah, I think the target was if we start as the council our budget public hearing on May 13th, if we had a recommendation.
So would that,
Say the 7th or so, that would give enough time
all
to.
right. Or would the week be the 6th? Would you prefer to have a full week and,
If you can, but if you need the 7th,
okay.
I think that's fine, as long as we just don't get it Friday afternoon and have to figure it out before Tuesday.
I like to send all my stuff for Friday afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
One day.
All right.
That's the other Friday.
That's the other Friday.
And in terms of the day of the week and time, is 5 o'clock a good time for people, or it is? Okay.
I think we should confirm, maybe we should
We
do
do.
that once Dawn gets here,
Yeah.
just in case there's any.
All right, so we'll defer that. Well, then we'll defer in terms of how many meetings and what we, so let's come back to that, then I'll
So
Yeah.
sit back.
through the finance committee, Dawn sent me a text that said Mondays and Tuesdays between 3:30 and 5:30 are off the table for her, but she's flexible otherwise.
Mhm.
So I don't know if the end of the week is better for everyone, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or different times on Monday and Tuesday.
Are Wednesdays good? Thursdays good?
Yeah, those are generally.
Wednesdays typically wouldn't work for me, but specifically this year, until at least the end of April, early May, they'll work. So just happens to work. out.
Wednesday's a good,
I'm
excellent.
good. I'm okay with Wednesday. Yeah.
Should we tentatively meets here on Wednesdays at 6, every other Wednesday? I don't know.
Conservation?
So there may be instances where we're going to need to go more than an hour, particularly since we've got only a limited
Right.
time frame.
I would say more likely than not.
Yes.
Would 4:30 work on a Wednesday? That way we're out of the way for conservation?
Well, I'm not even sure whether that will always leave enough time.
Okay.
Sure, we could find
I'm thinking we
it.
should leave ourselves at least 2 hours just in case.
Just going back in time, Jim, with you, it's sometimes we did invite department chairs. Is that going to be a problem having them come after the work hours? If we need to invite different downtown departments?
I think with enough notice, we can get everybody here.
Okay,
Again, I'm sort of confident that we can probably get all these conversations done without bringing anybody in.
Okay.
Right, and last year we did what Kim and Tom are talking about now. We relied heavily on their input because they had the meeting already.
right, okay.
So when did we meet last year? Was it
I'm afraid to mention, but it was Friday at 3 or 2:30,
Yeah, something like that.
something like.
1:30 to on Friday.
We can also look for alternate sites on, so Concom is second and fourth Wednesday. So,
Sure, there's another meeting room we could
We
find
can go
alternate weeks.
sit out there.
yeah, I mean, this is,
and would we plan that this would be taped by LCAT, our meetings?
I can only have one Zoom at a time
Oh,
on those Wednesdays.
yeah, right. Okay.
So,
So we're looking at Wednesdays right now, is that what we're saying?
well, that was the only one that we threw out at the moment. Would Thursdays work for people?
Thursday,
So Thursdays, if we did Thursdays at 4, would that potentially work? And
Can we do Wednesdays at 4?
The whole like
I could,
is
Are you
that,
saying no? Are you saying?
Wednesdays at 4, yeah.
Oh, okay.
With a hard stop on those 2 Wednesdays at 6.
Right.
Like 5:40, yeah, 5:45.
okay,
Is that okay?
that would work. If we find for some reason we get tapped out and we didn't finish the business that we need to,
go out there.
if for some reason we have to, we'll add a meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Does
Yeah,
that?
that's
Sure.
fine.
yeah. So we're looking at Wednesday starting what time?
Wednesdays at 4.
Beautiful.
And that would probably mean we'd be April 9th, April 16th, April 23rd, and April 30th. With final wrap up and finishing of our recommendations May 7th to provide to the town council May 7th.
Jim, point of order, we have.
Yes, Marilyn.
Gardens on that evening on the 7th,
We have what?
since you're the president.
We have what?
Brownstone Gardens, I have written down on the 7th of May.
7th. Oh, because shouldn't that be a Thursday?
Well, maybe it's my mistake, but I thought it might have been a
Okay.
special.
I'll double check that.
All right, okay.
Let's at least book ourselves for the April ones, and I'll double check with that. Yeah. Marilyn and I share
Right.
board duties with Brownstone.
One, two.
Oh, that's right, with Dawn too. Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
4 o'clock in this room.
Well, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the availability of the rooms yet. So we may have to double check that.
Okay.
Let's book our time.
Fine, but I mean, their regular day ends here at that point,
Yeah,
so we should be okay.
okay.
Um,
Let's pencil it in, but we'll confirm the location.
So 419, 416, 423,
9, 16,
49.
23, and 30.
Gotcha.
Got it.
And the 7th, I thought also, or is that just, that's our deadline's the 7th? May 7th.
May 7th would be, we're going to meet one time in May to make sure we have the recommendations ready
Okay, so
for
we may have to add it.
town council. But we'll have to figure out that time. We may have a conflict for the 7th, or we may want to meet a day or two early
Yeah.
before the 7th
Got it.
so that we have them ready
Perfect.
by then.
Love it.
And there may be, after we have the first public hearing on the 13th, if there's something that comes out of it, there could be another meeting.
Sure, a follow-up meeting.
Different times.
Any of that stuff.
And in terms of the agenda for what we want to cover for each meeting, we may not have time to really talk about that here. Maybe I throw some suggestions out and send them out and see what you think, and any kind of edits or recommendations you have, we can do that and, determine how to approach that 4-9 meeting. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. And I think we're pretty much through at least what I would think of as the organizational piece of.
I'm taking notes as secretary today just to get it, be on record. But typically we have rotated the secretary
Yes.
Right.
minutes for the week, but I'm happy to do it now. And
Well, thank you, Kathy. And I think it's,
Not next week.
that's still a good idea. It keeps all of us remembering how to do it, and no one has to sit there, because it takes a little time out of your ability
to think and to participate, right?
Yes. So it takes the onus off of someone have to do that every single meeting. So we'll just rotate, and we'll go that way. Thank you for reminding me of that. The other thing that we did, and I think we had done it in the past, is as we do review things, at least in our minds, if we're pretty looks decent to us,
Vote on it.
kind of say so. And so that there's no big surprise. I know we went one cycle where we kept all our determinations till like one of our last meetings. And so we went and then we had some disagreements about the budget between what was proposed by departments and what we thought was reasonable. And that created some conflicts. So I know then we went back to, if we went through it and we thought it looked reasonable, kind of voted through that and said, yeah, that looked reasonable to us, so that, the budgeters realized that we kind of agreed with them, or they knew that we didn't agree with them, and there was a chance for them to follow up with us. And I would propose that we kind of do that same methodology again. And that's all I can think of at the moment, unless anyone else has any suggestions for us.
Jim, I'm sorry. I'll get you, I think Jackie's been posting the meetings.
Yes.
I'll put you in touch with her so that.
Yeah, and she's been terrific in the past, yeah.
And I just want to qualify the remarks from before about us sort of speaking on behalf of the department heads. I think if you want to dive into the school budget, that we schedule time with Gordon and or a member or two of the school committee. I can't speak intelligently about the curriculum and the impacts of.
That's typically the one that we wind up meeting with, I think, Tom. I think we found the last couple of cycles that you've had most of the answers asking the heads about, and with the footnotes, there's a lot of answers that you've already, our questions are answered. So that's gone a long way towards streamlining that. But with the school department, I think it to hear it right from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good. I
I
think,
think that was an important point.
yes. No, I think all of that's good from an overall like organization perspective. I think the only other thing that we could do this evening is just have Tom and Kim give us the top level overview if they want to, or call out anything about formats or things that we should focus on or consider.
Yeah, and or just answer questions after a first flush. Not you, Ralph. Yeah.
The best stapler.
Sure. We'll just do sort of broad strokes here. This is the FY26 draft budget, obviously. Lovely picture of Town Hall on the front.
Interrupt you for one second.
Sure.
We talked about it before for members of the public too. If you want to find it, if you go on the town's website and go to the government tab at the top and then click on town manager, and then you'll see a link there for FY26 draft budget, April 1st, 2025.
Good job.
Excellent point. Relatively speaking, it was sort of a difficult budget prep. We sort of were, went through our normal process of what we call level one, which is submittals from all the departments of level service budget, which to us means, providing the same amount of service as we have been with any contractual increases, but no new sort of initiatives, no new employees, things like that. And I think this year we had a little bit of a caveat of a level fund for expenses. We sort of typically, almost every department has contractual obligations in their salary portion of the budget. The non-salary or expense side of the budget, we sort of left that a level fund / level service, because there are plenty of departments that also have contractual services in their expense line items as well. So it was sort of understood that we kind of wanted to just push forward what we've been doing, all we've been doing, and only increasing the budget, what we were contractually obligated to do. As those budgets came in and we started getting our estimates of increases for some of our bigger budget items, health insurance,
Liability.
property and liability insurance, and retirement. We as we stated in the joint meeting with the school committee, we really were only left under Prop 2.5, about $1 million to go around across the entire operating budget of an increase, rather. So typically after level one, we meet with everybody and sort of dissect the budget line by line, answer any questions we have of the department heads, and then sort of morph into a level two conversation, which is the manager's recommended budget. And if there are any needs outside of the submittal, meaning I could use some more help, or we could use this piece of equipment or things like that. Unfortunately, based on the aforementioned, we didn't really get into those conversations this year. Budgets were sort of stuck at level service. Unfortunately, there was really nowhere else to go. So we had less conversations about the future of certain departments, and more about getting the number down to a point that was more manageable under our levy. So we ended up getting into the excess levy a little bit to recommend this portion of the budget. The town departments with an increase of 2.26%, and the school at 2.5%. That we had to grab about 300,000 or so from the levy, which still left 330,000, somewhere in there. Is there anything else about that part of it that I left out? Not really. So nice. I don't know where else we want to talk about. I know we have a lot of information to get through, but the budget itself is very conservative for more than a few reasons. One, that excess levy provides a lot of comfort for the community, especially in such a volatile time. Trying to plan budgets right now, it has been extremely difficult projecting where we're going to be even 6 months from now. So it was important for us to hold on to a majority of that excess levy and not tax all the way. I don't know if there's any questions at that point. If go ahead, Jim.
Are you looking to hold on to as much cushion versus the levy as you can with the idea with the current administration, there may be less federal aid, less aid in general, grants, et cetera?
Well,
And so you may have to make that up.
Can I?
Yeah.
Part of the reason that if you look at the history of the town, they typically have never taxed up to the levy. We were looking at 2.7 million in excess levy over the past few years. It's come down since COVID because our budgets have gone up and we've started taking from that levy. The concern with having a budget that you're pulling 500,000, 600,000, $1 million from your levy is next year, you're still going to have that budget plus an additional 2%, 3%, whatever it is. And technically, when you're pulling it from the levy, that's one-time money. So I think if you're going to start taxing higher because budgets are going up and because insurance and retirement and everything is going up, you don't want to pull large amounts from that levy every year. You kind of want to move forward at a slower kind of increase. Plus, you have this excess levy in case, like you said, if we're losing funding or something like that, we can fall back on it.
Talking to someone that was on the appropriations committee when Proposition 2.5 came in. So we used to build our budgets to the maximum of the levy. And then that was what we had. And then we had to make our expense budgets fit within it. But it was typically, all right, what's the maximum we can tax? And then what can we fit our budgets into? So it's a lovely situation to have to not have to tax to the max, I have to say. So.
And I did do a little, I just went out 3 years to kind of see if we do tax up to the levy, what it's going to look like. And, next year will be negative 700,000. The year after that will be negative 1.2 million. At least if we do this a little bit slower, we have a few years to look at revenues. We have some time to look at expenses. We have time to kind of, before we end up in a situation like most of the towns that you talk to right now, and everybody right up to
Spend it all at once and then they're, yeah. I congratulate you on your restraint.
Well, again, there's a lot of questions that we couldn't even hope to have the answers to, and we may not ever get them. And so as conservative as we can be to be as comfortable as we can be, we really want to keep this financial position that we're in strong. We still have to borrow a bunch more money to finish a huge project that's going on right now. And so we're trying to be as comfortable as we can in all these different ways. Still providing all our services, which is, unfortunately, we did have to take some money away from that level one. I don't think it's going to hurt our services except for, I guess I'll let the school opine on where they're going to end up. But, I think we did enough smart cutting where we can still provide what we provided last year and have that comfort to still have that excess levy. Yeah. So any other big questions?
Just a quick question to Kim. Refresh my memory, where are we with bonding for the school with respect to our current, the proposed tax rate?
So in this budget with what we borrowed, I think we borrowed about 83% of the funds that we'll borrow for the school. I have to look at it. It was $1.87.
85, 87.
85, 87. It's about $1.87 of the tax rate is for the excluded debt.
Okay. All right. But is that it?
No.
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and it'll be, because the project needs to be complete, then they need to do the MSBA audit,
Right.
and then we have to make sure we get all of our reimbursements in. So we won't do that final borrowing. Like you may see this a little bit more next year and maybe a little bit more in the following year.
Okay.
It'll be over a period of time.
This is another reason why not to go tax to the max at this point, because would be
Well, no, because the excluded is separate from
that's right
the
too.
tax rate.
Separate from, but
Right.
taxpayers are going to.
Taxpayers are still paying for it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, the good thing is too, when we did borrow, we got a really good rate in borrowing, and the amount that we're actually seeing in the tax rate is lower than what we anticipated. But
Right.
still, we don't want to see our tax rate.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
To just a point, if we took the debt exclusion away both last year and this year, last year, the tax rates would have been $18.12. There was 36 cents included for debt exclusion. And this year is $1.87. So if you did away with that, our tax rate's actually dropping. It'll drop to 17.98. And then you have to add the $1.87 in.
Just going to say estimated 1798.
That's the
Yes. That is correct, yes.
Yes, I'll never be more amazed than watching Kim change one number on one tab of one sheet and watch it spread across the entire TV. I'll just never get that. I'll just never get it.
The other thing to look at is, I believe over the last 4 years, if I saw correctly, our assessed values are up almost 35%.
Yeah.
If you look over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's a huge increase in assessed values. So the tax rate looks great. Oh, look, it's coming down. Your tax bills
Dollars.
still going up.
Right.
But again, at least it gives us room to a $25 limit,
Exactly.
which is what we need. Things aren't getting any cheaper as we go along.
Well, right. And we made a concerted effort to stop the sort of expense curve that we were on last year. Trying to come down from, the 8% and 7%, and we were down at 5.5% last year. And now we're down to 3.5% this year, I think. The balance of which is at some point, we have to figure out how we're going to get some more revenue and continue sort of flattening that expense curve that has sort of got out of control after COVID. So it's a continuous effort. Like you said, the math has to work out. With the budget's this, so whatever the tax rate is, whatever the valuation is, it is what it is. The money is still the same and the expenses are increasing. So the bill as you put it, is very hard to come down, especially when you construct a $200 million building.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Just a question, Ralph, you said over the last 4 years, the assessed values have gone up a combined 35%?
Yeah, I believe it's roughly 35%.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was 4 years or 5 years.
I'll check that, but I just wanted to get the right
Actually, and she's got a chart of it.
lovely chart.
So
Yes, I
anyway,
did read every page.
so
Find any mistakes?
Don't go to those yet.
good. Good. So anyway, again, all the budgets, the general fund budget is at 79,139,234. There's a couple of, we just have our regular capital plan at 1.5 inside our limit. Obviously we did a lot more last year. We had some ARPA, we had some free cash. Again, would have liked to have done some more projects, but as we found out last year, we want to keep our reserve position intact so that we can keep our bond rating and continue to get these numbers that, well, I don't want to expect them, but if we can keep our financial position this strong when we do go out to bond the rest of the money for the high school, we're at a better chance to get these rates that we got the first time. So we're being very conservative on the capital plan too. We elected not to raise and appropriate money for the new capital stabilization fund because of our position this year with the budget, and because we've never had it in the budget before, we're not creating a hole. So again, that's the other part of the question of, well, if we don't have money or we need money here, why don't we take it from here and put it there? Well, again, like Kim said before, that budget is still now carried over. And now you've got a hole in this other budget that you didn't fund that now you have to fund the next year. So trying to move the budget forward a year without creating any holes is also very important when we're this close to the 2.5, and we have to watch our increases as difficult as it is. Again, I guess we give this caveat every year. We're working off the first rendition of the state budget, so numbers could fluctuate a little bit, I suppose. I don't know that we've ever seen a year where it's been too crazy, but my thought is that plus or minus a few percentage points in the state aid, I don't know that that's actually going to change too much, right? I mean, we have
Sometimes like 60, 70,000, you can see
Right.
kind of a swing there.
and then that's the next one, and then it comes down to 45 and then back up to 55, and the whole process of the state budget. So we have to just kind of keep an eye on that as it goes. Nice pie graph of the general fund revenue sources. Obviously, most of it from 73% from real estate and personal property taxes. This is sort of what we were talking about what we were up against with the taxes and the excess levy, about our prior year levy limit, adding 2.5%. The estimated new growth at 500,000, which is historically right around where we've been, plus or minus, and where that limit is in the debt exclusion, and trying to keep that excess levy capacity for conservatively. So like Ralph already alluded to, the tax rate is estimated at $19.85, $1.87 of which is primarily related to the new high school. I think the last one is a modular project, and that's last payment is Or does it come off the books in
I think it
27?
Comes off in 27.
Yeah. So, but that is very small in comparison to the high school bill. So,
I didn't quite understand. In FY 24, the town relied heavily on excess levy to maintain the level services.
yep.
When you say excess levy, what are you actually talking about? I mean, excess levy is what you didn't use,
Right.
So
So,
how do you rely on something that you didn't use?
because it stays in that line item from the recap, Kim was talking about before that like in 2022, we had excess levy capacity of 2,713,646. So it's the amount you could have taxed, right? And it stays in the bank for you.
Right, so how
So,
is it that you're able to use it to spend?
because we can roll into like this year, we used 300,000 of the 1.6 to get to this budget. So we used almost $1 million or $1 million from 23 to 24 just for that operating budget. So
I guess I'll have to think through how
Okay.
terminology, the way you're approaching it. All right.
essentially, we used free cash in the form of excess levy to fund the operating budget, which is what Kim was saying before about trying not to use these one time, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you have a bank account of levy. Go ahead, you can explain it better. I don't know what I'm doing.
so,
I might just let Kim talk.
oh, no, so in 22, we were at 2.7 in excess levy. So we could have taxed an additional 2.7 million. We didn't. Same thing in 23.
When you don't tax it, it's gone. You never get a chance to tax that again.
Well, no, because the next year, as long as you
I know,
keep
but
everything the
Seven, that opportunity to charge that 2.7,
yes, the opportunity
that's gone.
for that year is gone. And then as long as everything stays pretty much the same, which it did.
Yeah.
23, excuse me, we still had 2.7. Going into 24, we were coming out of the pandemic when all of the budgets kind of stayed pretty low and there were things that needed to be increased. Utilities needed to be increased quite a bit. Insurance, retirement, things like that. And we ate into that excess levy. So now that's definitely gone, right? Because then we kept our budgets the same. We added 2%, 3%, 5%, depending on, whether it was school or town. So over the past couple years, we've done our best to really look at budgets. Insurance was definitely over budgeted. So we were able to bring down health insurance. Other departments had to go up. But now we're at a point where we can't take these big, big cuts in these departments. And now our excess levy is coming down a little bit just for us to stay where we are. So because those budgets went up so much from 23 to 24, now we're kind of fighting, not being able to go up more than 2.5%.
So is there a level of excess levy below which you do not want to go?
1.3 million.
Yeah.
I mean, for this year.
I'm just wondering how is that? How are you using that as a guideline or measurement?
I mean, I don't know if there was a specific reason why we only went 300,000. I was trying to, when I was looking at the budgets and I was estimating, I was trying to keep the excess levy the same. I didn't want it to change at all. But when the school's budgets came in, when the town's budgets came in, I think we were like negative 1.6 million. So it was some work to get us down to this positive 1.3.
Right.
So
No, it's just a new ruler for me in terms of, approaching things. So I was just curious how.
And I guess furthermore, so that would be the maximum the budget could be this year, right?
that what, if
If we added
we
one
increase
point
1.3
three
million.
million. So that's like,
Right.
Right at-
we're back to, yeah, that's like
That would be
X by law.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But if we keep the 1.3 and it carries over to next year, we have some room to, right?
In the event expenses went crazy.
Correct.
Thank you.
That is where the increase in values were that Ralph was talking about. So if you included projected increase 2026, over the 5-year span of 2022 through 2026, it ends up being 35.8%.
Oh. Yeah, there was a couple years there where we had a couple tens in a row, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Hey, we're a desirable community. Cherry sheet estimates, again, we're still on the first, that, estimated local receipts, we took a,
Town manager, when you move through, could you just give us the page you're on?
oh, I'm sorry. So now, yeah, I went through page 8, which is preliminary cherry sheet estimates. That's just the governor's, first proposal, right?
Yep. There'll
So
be 3 more.
there'll be 3 more iterations of the sheet.
So before we jump off of that page, you've got, in the second paragraph down under general government.
Yep.
You got veterans benefits, and then the next line is VBS.
Mhm.
I thought VBS would be Veterans Benefits Services. Or
Yes.
is that something else? And then I just saw veterans benefits above it. So,
That it's just how the state, like, this isn't something I create. This comes right off of the state website. It's how they break down those benefits.
okay.
You want a clarification on what those are?
Well, I'm assuming the VBS and the elderly has something to do with, what is it, 22J, the HEROES Act, another one?
And the senior citizen one, yeah.
The veterans benefits, is that the reimbursement of our,
5%. No,
Right,
right?
yeah,
we can get a clarification.
Yeah, we can
exactly
clarify
what the
that for you.
difference between
Yeah.
the two is.
So, this, page 9 is our estimated, monthly expense, which we've tried to, increase our revenue smartly, that we're budgeting for. The biggest of which, if you're looking at the actual numbers, would be the investment income. Like this year, we budgeted 250,000 and we're at almost 1.35 million. Obviously due to all our borrowing and smart, investing. But it's not something we can rely on moving forward, meaning if we bump that expected revenue up too high and don't get it, well, now we've run into a real problem. So we bumped it up a little bit, somewhere where we're comfortable. But this would be one to keep an eye on at some point. I think we'll see that sort of spike in the curve come back down to a normal level, even though it'll probably find a new level because the state allowed different, that was last year.
Yeah.
The state allows for different investment opportunities now for municipalities. So Don's been doing great with that.
Were there special circumstances in FY24 that shows $1,075,000 in that category, and through 3/13 of 25, $1,339,000 in that category?
Yeah, so it's specifically due to the borrowing for the school and the natatorium. So all the bond,
All the money we didn't have to pay for, we just had it.
we have it because we need it for cash flow in between borrowings, but we're investing it. So all of that money goes into the general fund.
And we won't have any of that in FY26.
So it's not that we won't, we probably will have that money in 26, but we can't use it as a revenue source for a general fund budget. Because if we now raise up all of our expenses to meet that revenue, well, when we pay those bonds, when we pay that money for the construction, we're no longer getting this revenue. Now we've created a revenue deficit for us going forward. So that 300,000 didn't come out of nowhere. I looked at how much we've earned on just our reserves that are in the general fund versus what we've earned on the bond money. And that 300,000 is where we kind of landed.
All right, so we may get some of that, but you can't really rely on
Right.
on it.
We'll get it. It will roll to free cash. And at that point, a decision can be made where best to put that money, whether it's stabilization funds, OPEB, capital stabilization, different things.
And
Okay,
eventually we won't get that money.
Correct.
Eventually, yes.
We'd be back down to
To the 3.
closer to the 3,
Yep.
right? So instead of, like you said, a deficit, creating a hole on the other side of the budget.
Mhm.
That we now have to fill with something else, right? Did we saw a little bit of an increase also in building?
Yeah, building permits.
We sort of updated our, the building fees last year, brought them into the 21st century, I think. So we saw a little bit more revenue there. Again, hard to rely on. I think the number this year, we had a couple outliers as well, a couple of larger projects that sort of skewed the revenue number. So again, it looks like we should, how come we can't budget for more revenue here or there? There's a reason for that. And there were a couple of big projects in town that cost a lot of money to permit. And we can't really, until we get our, new growth number flying with a little bit more regularity, we can't really rely on the permits that go with those projects.
So I think there was a solar field
Yep,
that,
that was a big one.
yeah, it
That
was
was,
roughly $100,000 in permitting, all around. And that's what skewed the number way up. Once you took that off, it drops right back to.
yeah. So that was,
we're estimating.
Yeah, American Saw.
Right.
There's a lot of permitting in the solar.
Who knows, maybe we'll get a warehouse or something.
Page 10 is the another lovely pie graph of great graph job this year.
Excellent.
General fund uses by function. This sort of just is kind of a breakdown of how we spend our money. Education, no surprise, is the big part of the pie. Followed by insurance, and then public works, public safety.
Example of total other uses.
The other uses, on that levels projection tab, the one that's got all the, like green and blue kind of writing on it. If you go to the end of that, it lists capital. We raised 1.5 million in the capital, and then it's all the transfers that go out to the stabilization, OPEB, compensated absences. And it's also got the diff in there that we have with Long Meadow, that $20,000 fee, and then what we raised for the overlay, for abatements for the assessor's office.
Thank you.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but just looking at that pie chart and the package, page 26. The education side, that does not include chapter 70, correct? 36 million,
So this is general fund.
just a general,
Yeah, this is just general fund uses.
kind of eye-opening to me when you jump to page 26. Just looking at the actual.
You did mean to jump ahead.
I did mean just like.
26.
Yes,
I had to go back and look at the pie chart when I looked at this.
Oh, the net school.
That's why
Oh,
that's the trajectory, the next.
that was as of 24. So that comes right off of Desi's website. There's no new information yet for 25, but that's where we are. That's where we were in 24.
I mean, something that's only a fiscal year,
Right.
accurate depiction of.
Yeah.
That trajectory, okay.
and so the net school spending also includes, like on the pie chart on page 10, you got public works. Well, a portion of the public works is to maintain the school buildings. The IT department, a portion of that, it goes to the schools. So once you figure the net school spending, that's how much the schools are actually costing.
And I think the other big thing is all of their insurance and retirement is in our budget.
Right.
So that all goes into the calculation for net school spending.
So the retirement and insurance is in the insurance place of the pie for the schools as well?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's showing so it's not in the 45%.
No.
No.
No, and it's not in Public Works is slice either and or public safety or it's its own animal.
Yeah, the education portion is just their budget that gets approved by the school committee. Basically just the budget motion. So it just, it's all the same information.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, their budget that they approve,
The 36,905 this year.
does that include grants and all that they've received?
No, that's just their general fund budget.
Okay.
So pages 11 and 12. Same thing. Well, numbers to go with the pie chart. Hi, Don. Sort of that same breakout, total general government, total public safety. It's just the actual numbers there.
This breaks everything down between salaries and non-salaries, which is the way that we actually.
The way we voted.
So this is just how the budget motion looks. And then I update it through the levels.
Through the finance chair, we're getting an overview.
Right now,
Am I assuming?
starting at the next meeting, we're going to be going through item by item, or do you want to do that now? Like, such as on page 11, lists everything. It shows, let's say, the town manager non-salary is negative. We had questions on that. Is now.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. And I mean, I had kind of gone through it and I had marked down ones where, you know, I didn't really have a question and others that I did have some questions about or, you know, to discuss more about. And I would not have a problem if someone had one, and because it's only 2 sheets, it's not an overwhelming thing.
So I think the next one, Jim, too, is the one that we
Had the questions and the questions.
went back to a lot
Yeah.
when we got down into the detail.
I stopped here.
That it's basically the same information, but with the notes for increases or decreases or, and again, I wasn't sure how this right now either. And, if you wanted to get down into the weeds or we can skip over this and we flip back to it almost every time. Every time we went to a department, we started here and then found the corresponding backup in the next thing. So, however you want to go through it, I was kind of just moving through the general overview and, but we can do it however we want.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. I was kind of thinking it was 5 to 6 was the FOC, 6 to whatever was the. I just wasn't the.
So I'm jumping in here.
Yeah.
I'm Dawn
Yeah,
Starks,
yeah.
by the way. Very sorry for being late.
You're our vice chair.
You're our vice chair, yeah.
That'll teach you.
So I have still some old notes from previous years. Just as we look back, I don't know, I see we've kind of set up the schedule. So we've usually jumped in, had the layout, everyone usually assign homework at the end of decide what's just out. And we go through orders and we usually try to get through the departments that don't have a lot of questions, that are just like everyone's, you can usually see, everyone usually has this similar things marked off. So we go through that to get the light lifting done, so we feel good about getting, because sometimes we get stuck in ruts, not ruts, I don't mean that negatively. I mean, we get into some deep conversations, which also lead oftentimes to better processing and the big picture, because it's easy to get lost in the weeds rather than the big picture. So I guess Jim and I, we
can-
could work out.
Yeah, because I think it would be more useful for us to actually do our homework, looking at this with the notes, versus us trying to do it with this. And so I think, using Dawn's strategy there, our homework should probably be for 4-9, or at least some of our homework would be to go through this section and just go through all of the town departments, and where the footnote doesn't answer our question, let's make a note of it, and we'll convene, and the ones that we still have questions with, we'll make notes of all those, and those are the ones that we'll ask questions of Tom and Kim. And if they can't answer it satisfactorily, we'll put it on the agenda for follow-up. So that would be the start of our 9.
Yep, and usually, and then we traditionally also take the big departments, police, fire, schools usually has at least one of their own meetings, if not more. We tend to put that at the back end, depending on how much information we get. The more information we get up front, the easier it is, honestly, because information is key. And we've been getting in the past, I'd say past 2 years at least, really good information. That helps a lot. We almost always, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, end up getting, at the end, it gets some heavy lifting and backed up a little, because capital plans always involve a lot of thinking. We also, Jim, I remember last year, we kind of skipped over sources and uses, but that's an excellent thing. Again, big picture thinking. Where are we getting our money? Where is it going? Where is it coming from? Where is it going to? So these are all pieces that we chunk out, and we used to, for homework, we would carve out so it wouldn't be overwhelming, because it can be. We'll split it in half to these departments and look, so we could really do a drill down. Again, it's up to everyone, but the roadmap is good.
Yes, and Dawn, you weren't here, but what I suggested was, we would put together kind of a suggested agenda for the 5 or 6 meetings that we have in 4 meetings that we have in April. And what I'd like to do maybe is you and I kind of sit down and chit chat over that, and maybe put it together together. And then we'll send it out to the rest of the committee for their input. And if they have any changes to suggest, because I think one of those meetings has to be at least a big chunk of it with the school. And then we'll go from there. But yeah, I think we'll do it together.
Right.
And then
Yep.
we'll send it out
Sounds great.
prior to April 9th, get some input, and go from there. Yeah,
Yeah.
good points.
And school vacation.
20,
Oh, when is
You're
it?
gonna-
21st.
Yeah, okay,
Anybody
gone.
hit
No.
by that?
I will be gone, but I can easily zoom in. I won't be absent from any meetings.
Okay.
Fine with me.
Wow.
I have Thursday and Friday off.
It's, I think.
I'm just kidding. I don't really ever have the day off, Ralph.
So, yeah, I mean, there's the capital plan as well, which is usually not necessarily a whole meeting, but it can
Right.
be a good hour to go through it. assuming, yes, go ahead.
Counselor Page had a good point. There was a whole lot of work done by the Capital Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
With some backup information.
Yes, and I think last year
I'll slide that to you.
we'd see some of that, which would have been helpful last time. So
Okay.
is that part of what we have?
Will be
No,
emailed.
it's not in this, but
Yes,
all the other backup.
you can supply that. It would be helpful
Absolutely.
because it would be, it's nice knowing that another group has already done that vetting process.
Yeah, it wasn't as fun a year this year, right, Rich?
It was very hard.
But yeah, they rate every project,
Yes, right. I
vet everything out.
passed, so
Okay.
I know the.
All right. So, yep, I'll have those backup sheets for that before your next meeting for sure.
All right, thank you. That'll be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of the submittal is kind of just informational anyway, aside from the capital plan, the debt schedules and the graph for net school spending has already been brought up, and some of our reserve activity and what we expect it to be after we vote be this budget. More graphs showing our reserves in very, very good shape and all in line and or exceeding our policy targets, which is great. The revolving funds and then the proposed rates and budgets for the enterprise funds as well, and the ambulance fund.
So Tom, I was looking at page 26 of 43, says foundation budget, chapter 78, required net school spending, actual net school spending.
Yep.
Just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. So required net school spending is basically the same as foundation budget. Is that correct?
Essentially, I would caution anyone from looking too far into chapters.
There's a few minor differences.
Yeah, it's a brain scrambler, but yes, for the most part, the foundation budget is your budget.
And the net school spending, that's what we're actually spending.
That's actual.
The town is actually spending.
Correct, based on the state's formula. So not the general fund obligation. They take into account all those other pieces. So there's a whole report that's done, like IT, DP, building maintenance, insurance, administration, HR. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. Whatever this year was right around 45 million was the actual net school spend.
So if anything, it looks like the spread or the difference between the net school spending requirement and the actual net school spending that we're spending is actually getting bigger.
Yeah, we're at about 135%.
Yeah.
And that number has stayed in the 130s, 130-ish% for quite some time.
And we could stop anytime
No,
you want. I figure we got them here. Might as well.
Yeah, keep going. I didn't mean to breeze through the rest of it, but I know that most of the information is in those sheets that we'll start getting into next year. This is all good information at the back here, which is our, financial position. So go ahead.
Yeah, I always kind of like the idea of the free cash and where we are with our reserves and sort of thing. I'm looking at page 28, that kind of details the cash. It's with 2026 impact. So that's great. I had 10.9 million in free cash. And we've done a number of things. And so the remaining free cash as of when? As of the end of, just like the projected,
Right now,
as of.
talking about the 5.6 million.
Yeah.
It's as of right now.
Current.
Well, when I sent it to you. But I don't think we voted anything else.
All right. Is anything, have you any projections of stuff that's going to come out of free cash before the end of the Fiscal year,
Yeah,
I'm aware.
not that,
nothing that you have on
nope, there's no budgets that are,
horizon.
in need of anything or, any
So
extraneous spending that's on the horizon.
snow and ice will come out of it.
Well, right, but that, yeah.
This year, we actually, had quite a few different storms that needed a lot of salt and stuff. So if I was to guess, you're probably looking at 500,000 coming out of it. That's what I'm guessing, because we only allocated 127,000.
Yeah, I don't.
That's gone like
That high though. Maybe
It
like,
might not
I think
be.
it's at like 330 or I don't know, we can talk about that too.
so the other thing is too, it's not necessarily guaranteed that free cash would need to be used for that, because if there is money remaining in health
Yes.
insurance or
Yeah.
You move it around.
departments, when we do transfers, we can do a transfer for that. So I think the only way we would
Right.
use free cash if we didn't have enough in another budget line item.
Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you refresh what the state recommended percentage is? I know there's a spread that they like us to have for free cash stabilization. I think that's pretty much it.
So we have a policy which mirrors DLS's requirements, and it's between 5% and 8%.
Yeah.
So we have it at,
I am.
And is that on another sheet, Kim, affected as a percent?
it should be right next to the dollar amount. So the 8%, that's right next to the 5.7.
Oh, okay, all right.
And then everything else has the percentages that they're at. Those are not the targets.
8% of our estimated budget or,
Of our previous year's budget.
all right. And that's what you were trying to protect for the purposes of bond ratings, et cetera.
All the reserve.
All the
basically,
reserves, yeah. And I mean, I don't know, did I ever give them the financial reserves policy? Because I can give you the policy so that you can
yeah.
actually see the percentages.
And the targets are all listed on the graphs in the coming pages.
Oh, that's true.
Is that the only thing free cash that the state includes, is that 5 to 8%? Does it include any other thing like the stabilization fund or any?
So in the policies, we have targets for everything, stabilization, compensated each of the retained earnings for the enterprise funds. So yeah, there is a policy that covers pretty much everything on here.
So would we be actually right now in excess of the 5 to 8% target of the state?
I think we're right at it,
Well, if the free cash is 8%.
and we're at 8%.
Right. But if you include,
No, they're separate.
They're
They
separate.
want you to have them both.
Yeah.
oh, okay, so then it would.
Yeah. Yeah, we will send the policy. What was the other thing capital
Backup on the capital.
backup. Thank you, Kathy. You're doing a great job tonight, by the way.
I have to go. I forget what I've written.
Capital backup and reserve policy.
So, Chairman, Vice Chair, our homework is to come in, reviewing paperwork here and things that we want to discuss for our next meeting.
We're gonna,
Page 11 and 12 being our header sheets, with followed by the. Is that correct?
well, we're going to,
They're going to develop an agenda of,
Okay.
in addition to that.
I think,
we don't want to run off of those pages. We want to run off of
Yeah, I would
the
say,
ones with the explanations.
I would say with the idea that you
13 through 17.
do have a question, I would take a look at
Right.
the detail and make sure it answers that for you. So it, make sure that it covers the question, because this has a lot of detail of each one of those line items. The other thing is, I don't think we'll probably get, we may get the backup with the capital planning, these overview and recommendations before April 9th. I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend messing around with the capital plan without that because it'd just be a waste of time. I think it would be much more helpful to have that when you were reviewing it. If we get it in time, I think it would be well worth it because that would be a good chunk to look at. So I think we'll just have to see what we can do at that point. In terms of the school budget, is that somewhere for us to see it all or to look at in advance? Is it all here?
It's all in here.
Yep.
We'll have to we'll have to schedule a time.
Yeah,
And
so-
that means we'll have to figure out a time for us to look at it in
Yep.
advance of our discussion.
And then we can chunk it out so ahead of time and have targets so that people can be, it's nice when everyone's prepared
Mhm.
rather than just going willy-nilly. So we can map out. I
Yeah.
probably have the files. Oh, I have files with, you know, how we did it. We don't have to do it that way, but just to see how to map it out.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Hash it out. We've got to post by, we're going to post by the 7th, so.
Yeah.
We've got time window, which I think.
I think a lot of the departmental budgets will go quicker than previous years based on our first view. Yeah, I mean, we're running at bare bones,
Right.
so.
All right. Really all
On the capital planning, page 18 doesn't work for you, Jim? You want more detail?
I'd like to get a little bit more understanding of the why. Which usually comes from
Yeah, so
that you,
it's you guys, you have your whole rating system
Right,
and then you mark them A through,
right.
right, A, B, C, D, and then 1 through 8, and
Right.
that's how they really kind of get.
Right.
And I can audible, obviously,
Yeah.
which I did, unfortunately. So I'll just give them those sheets of your rankings.
Right, yeah.
And you can have the whole sort of capital plan too. I mean, if you need to see the projects themselves after you see the rating, because I'll get that to you right away. And what they, again, how they ranked everything and what their conversation was to get to their conclusion. And then I'll fill you in on why I made changes I made.
that's fine. And knowing that we have a committee member on.
Yeah, it's great.
That's,
Even better.
Even better, yeah.
So, Jim, were you actually looking for their rankings? I mean, they already submitted their, when change that. What were you looking for, like when the department requested, let's say, a police cruiser for this or that? What it was, what type of vehicle it was, and why they were asking for it. They have a form that they usually fill out for that.
well, I hate,
That was my question to
Okay.
you. is
Yeah.
I know we have those. If you could send that to me, whether they want it or not. is up
Oh,
to
I
them.
yeah,
Oh,
well, I'll open up to. Wait, Rich already has seen it.
Right.
Dawn, you have any interest or Anna or?
Yeah.
I was there as well. I was part of the,
I think the project
Yes.
detail sheet would be helpful.
no, I was part of the capital.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Dawn,
Sometimes I do like to see the reasoning why, but as we have two people here
Hmm,
who know it,
Right.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
No, I'm fine with verbal.
I think last year, none of us were on it, that were on the financial oversight committee, so we really didn't have any,
Oh, yeah, right.
To
Yeah, good point.
ask, yeah.
Okay.
all right.
We have all the information, so if it's not a big deal, I mean, we can, I gotta send it to.
No, I'll go with the ratings and then we can ask, about.
Okay.
So that's all I have. I think the rest we can cover and Don and I will get together and we'll throw together some, thoughts on for April 9th and also for the following meetings and, get your feedback. We'll get it posted and so I'd open up to any other items that we should think about or bring up before at least the financial oversight committee portion of the meeting adjourns.
Just one thing regarding posting. Because it ends up being a very fast, we get on this track and it's usually,
Boom, boom, boom.
yeah, I used to post like the next day. So as far as input, be on the lookout for something from us. Respond, and if you miss it, you miss it. We can always catch up the following, and I always put that little bottom statement, or Jackie
Yes.
does, I have, that says that if we venture into something, we're well covered, but, and we try to write them fairly broadly, like the topics, so that we can have some maneuverability. That's
Like budget review, one agenda,
That covers
different
it.
date, budget review.
Definitely be FY 2026 though.
that's true.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Financial Oversight Committee meeting.
I'll move.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Meeting is adjourned.